Oh, hello. Welcome to another magical episode of Full Grown and Wild. We're here with the usual suspects, Condog,
Yo,
Dallywood,
It's me.
Aiden,
Oh,
and
Ooh.
our special magical guest, Your Bat.
You could call me Eli.
We're here with our special magical guest, Eli.
howdy.
Well, it's very nice to meet you, Eli.
It's
morning.
nice to meet you guys too.
And today we're going to ask her a few questions about witchcraft and maybe something about her paranormal experiences and her being a psychic.
So yes, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want to start off with telling us why you're into witchcraft.
I'm 22 years old, and I'm originally from Texas. I originally got into witchcraft at a pretty young age. Actually, a pretty interesting thing is I was like utilizing some of my psychic abilities as a child in very negative ways due to my environment growing up was very negative. And something I would do often was drain people of their energy. And that was like sort of where I guess quote unquote first started, but it really began happening for me when I was about 16. I met this lady named Jessica at my old apartment complex. This is probably going to sound really unrealistic, but this is genuinely what happened. So, she lived downstairs from me, like on the apartment building over. And one day I was having a bad day because my boyfriend and I at the time were fighting. So I asked her for a cigarette and we smoked and we became friends. And one evening I was sitting on her porch with her smoking. And she was telling me about, oh, she could feel other people's emotions and shit. And I was like, oh, hey, I can do that. And, we started talking. And, like, she started telling me this story. And I, like, passed out 2 times on her front porch. And like the second time I came to, she was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and was like helping me up, and she was like, "I didn't mean to do that." It was really strange, but it was crazy. I had not done acid at this point in my life, but the only thing I could really compare it to was like being on fucking acid, like the geometric patterns, like seeing the fucking grass breathing, like seeing the trees move. It was really fucking weird. And that was what really opened my fucking eyes to the reality of things around me and got me into practicing. And now I'm currently working under a mentor.
Sweet. So tell us a little bit about how she was able to do that to you and maybe how you're able to manipulate someone else's energy or feelings.
Okay, so I think the reason that that was able to happen to me was because I'm very sensitive to energy.
Okay.
Um, so that is how something like that can happen. I don't know the exact methods she used because I'm still learning at this current point in time.
Okay.
I just recently got under like an actual mentorship where I'm being guided in the correct direction because I was doing a lot of chaos magic for a long time, basically going with my intuition. Um, when you want to mess with someone else's energy or manipulate their energy, you're gonna want to start by getting a good read on them. It can even be just like noticing someone's like mannerisms, how they speak, and kind of connecting the dots as to how they became into the person they are now. Some people are just naturally empathic, like myself, where you can just kind of meet someone and you know a lot about them. That's actually how I met well, I knew him before my current boyfriend. I gave him a reading and we became very close.
Right.
Um, but once you have that kind of tie to someone energetically, it would be pretty easy, I guess, to manipulate their energy or
Right.
to overwhelm them energetically. That's kind of the whole like concept of psychically attacking someone, which is where you basically focus your energy onto someone and attack them with it. You harm them. You can cause all kinds of harm that way. Sometimes it can even be unintentional. If you feel a lot of jealousy or anger towards someone and that person is very sensitive, that can affect them if you are very powerful in that manner.
And see that is actually very interesting to me because I've always felt like I can meet a person and know what kind of energy they bring and almost see I can almost tell if someone's a bad person, a good person just by glancing at them, talking to them for a few minutes, but never really connected the dots with that. So how did she help you connect the dots and how long had she been practicing on her end?
Jessica had been
Hmm.
practicing for for I want to say a good 20 years. I think she connected the
Wow.
dots because I was very vulnerable with her, and she knew a lot about me before this happened. So,
Okay.
she knew a lot of my life story, like what was going on with me. We talked every day. I would go to her porch and I would smoke cigarettes with her and like go and help her cook and stuff. Because my mom and I didn't have like a super great relationship. So, I would just hang out with her all the time. Plus, my mom worked pretty late. So I think that that definitely gave her a good amount of access to my energy. It's actually really interesting because after that happened, she had to help me walk up my stairs, and I went inside the house. And this is actually a topic that I wanted to bring up later on in here, which was functioning
Hmm.
with being a psychic while being schizophrenic, because there's like a very fine line in between the two. But
Right.
basically, I was, upstairs in my apartment, and I was going into my room, and I started having a panic attack. Like, it was really bad, and I was just like, "Ah, you're fucking crazy, bro. Like, this is it. Like, you're done. Like, you're fucking insane." And then, like, I just felt like this energy wash over me, and I heard something be like, "Go back to Jessica's house." I have clear audience. I can hear things. I just recently realized that I had that. I always thought I kind of lacked it. I have more of I have really strong claircognizance and I forgot what it is when you can clear sentience. So like for example, I can meet someone and then I can like immediately clock their trauma because I can feel it, or I can just dig into their energy and pinpoint shit. But I went back down to her house and she's like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad you came back." And that was like the first time that I started learning anything because she taught me how to read auras. And the way that she did that was we put our hands against each other's, and she was basically like, "Close your eyes, tell me what color you see, and tell me the emotion it is." And we did that until I was getting it correct every time that she was, doing a color and an emotion with it.
Wow.
That's wild.
So, right, right, right. So how does that inspire you to become a mentor now rather than furthering your magic more? Or does that help you further it as far as learning new things and how to control it in different ways?
Oh, I'm not currently a mentor. I work under a mentor. I am nowhere near ready to mentor anyone. I'm actually in the midst of really heavy shadow work right now.
Oh,
Um,
okay, I see.
yeah, I'm in the midst of really, really heavy shadow work, unpacking trauma, like unlearning things about myself, trying to better myself so that I can be where I need to be in order to practice the way that I want to, because it is something that's very important to me. My psychic abilities, witchcraft, very, very important to me, and something that's been very deeply intertwined with my life. My dad actually told me that when I was an infant that I taught him how to astral project by going into his dreams. And this is something that I do where I tend to astral project when I sleep accidentally or like lucid dream a lot. It's I don't know, or dream hop. It happens a lot. It actually happened pretty recently and led someone to believe that I hexed them, which was a conversation that happened today. It was very frustrating, especially because while I do believe in using baneful magic to some degree, uh, it's not really my thing unless someone has done something. I feel like there are some things that do warrant, some sort of revenge, like if someone abuses you or someone does like something really fucked up. Those are
Right.
places where I can see it being like a viable thing to do. I always explain to people, black magic or what is considered black magic isn't always inherently like bad. Like if you fucking curse a pedophile and he gets hit by a bus, like you didn't do anything wrong.
That
Like
sounds like good magic to me, my
Yeah.
friend.
exactly. But see, people think that baneful magic is often something like super negative or bad when it really always isn't. It can be used improperly for sure, just like anything can. There's just different types of people. It's all about intention.
Sometimes you gotta use it to take out the trash, right?
Yep.
So are you able
Absolutely.
to like describe the different branches of magic? Because I'm not really familiar with anything. I know there's like dark magic, but are there like other types?
There's a lot of different types of magic. I'm not like well informed on all of them, but a lot of actual like different like types of magic can come from religions. Like an example, even the Bible has magic in it. There's Cometicism, which is like an ancient form of magic and religion. It's something that I'm just trying to get into more. I do work with Anubis with my shadow work, so I do want to learn more about it. You have like green witches who generally work with herbalism, and you have kitchen witches who also I do consider to be a form of herbalism, because oftentimes when you're cooking and you're using herbs and you're using herbs with intention while you're cooking, it's pretty much the same thing as herbalism. You have, I guess, what you would consider like a light worker. I don't. It's definitely a term. I think it's kind of an overused term, and it's oftentimes used by very narcissistic people who like to coin themselves as empaths and do the good vibes only shit, which is absolute bullshit. I do not fucking subscribe to that shit. I think people who go with the good vibes only, like positivity only, are fucking like just God. They're some of the most toxic people because the reality of being a human is that you're gonna experience all types of emotions and like just go through a lot of shit, and it's not reasonable, or what, that's not the word I'm looking for. It doesn't make any it's not realistic for you to
It's
always
not plausible.
yeah, it's not realistic for you to always be like pushing out good energy and being in a good place. Like you will have downfalls and you will have bad moments. Light workers, what like they actually are oftentimes is like empaths and healers. So for example, like I brought up earlier that as a child, like I would use energy vampirism as a form of like validation for myself because I did not get any from my family. And so basically I would like suck the positive energy out of people that they were sending towards me. I would drain them fucking dry. And as I got older, I learned how to repurpose that into sucking trauma out of people. I had a reading that I gave my friend, I want to say like 3 or 4 months ago. And it was so intense. I vomited because she was like, I was like just taking that shit in. It was really fucking intense. But there's a lot of different types of ways that magic works. There's also a lot of different correspondences that people can have. It just really depends on the person. Some people might have correspondences with necromancy or working with the dead or speaking to the dead. Personally, I can speak to the dead. I had an experience I've had many experiences like that, but a good example of one that I had recently was one of our roommates got kicked out, and there was a Nazi knife found in his room, and one of our ex-roommates was like, oh, I want to keep it, like a fucking idiot. And lo and behold, that night I saw a fucking SS officer in a blue suit, and I was like, yes. I didn't even know they had blue suits. Like, I googled it to make sure I wasn't seeing shit, because like I said, I am schizophrenic, so there are times where it's not what I think it is, and generally that's when I go to my mentor or I talk to my boyfriend about things to assure that I am not leading myself in the wrong direction, or I try to work with it, like work through myself with it. One thing is, when you're doing or practicing magic or you are psychic, you always want to go for the mundane first. Like if there's something mundane that can explain it, you always want to go with that first. But yeah, there's a lot of different shit that people can do. It just really depends.
Right.
So
Go ahead, Gabe.
all right. So you bring up like how you can drain people's energies and negative thoughts, correct?
I would say more so trauma or emotion. Yeah, I guess negative thoughts count as emotions. Yeah, I can.
Alrighty, yeah. How does that work? And do you always have control over it, or does it just kind of happen?
Oftentimes it just happens. It can be actually really frustrating. Like, I remember there was a period of time where our roommate was like feeling really heavily that she wanted to leave her husband, and sorry, I had to whisper because I don't want anyone to hear me. And she had came to me about it, and like it like clicked with me, and I was like, oh, that's why I've been feeling like so negative towards my boyfriend recently. Like I'm literally like picking up on that shit because she doesn't have good control over her energy, and it can be really difficult to control, especially because like if someone else is anxious around me, I feel it, and I'm like, oh my god, like I just want to escape the situation type of thing, and it's really difficult because my boyfriend and I both have anxiety, so it can be really difficult to navigate and learn how to control it. Really, what comes into play with that is grounding and learning to ground, and that's something that I have been learning. The way that I would say that I do it, I guess, is like I guess usually it'll start off like a little conversation with someone, and as I converse with them, it gives me a little more access to their energy, because you're building, it might not be like anything significant, but you are in some degree building a sort of like energetic bond with someone through the exchange of words. Like pretty much anything that you do could be considered a form of like quote unquote magic. It's really an extension of oneself. So, like you can use words or like mantras to perform like a ritual or a spell. There's a lot of things that you can do. So it's really just everyone has their different ways of doing it. For me, it usually is based on conversing with someone, and then usually I try to get like an emotional line out of them, and that's how I can get in. But other times, if someone doesn't have very good guards on themselves, or they're just very open, it's like, you just will feel it regardless.
Right.
Right, and that's
So
almost true with
does
any situation with conversating with people, in my opinion.
does
Yeah.
practicing magic like help you control that? Are you trying to like suppress that in your life, or are you trying to just use that for a better purpose, or
I'm trying to learn to control it because the reality of it is that it will never really go away. Like, it's always going to be something that I deal with. Like, oh god, I remember one time I was giving a reading to this girl, and it was bad. Oh my god. I remember getting on the call, and she was like, just talking to me, and like in my brain I'm like pedophile. I was like, oh god, where is this about to go? And she starts talking to me about how she wasn't allowed to be friends with this person anymore. And, I was like, well, what happened? And she was like, well, my friend said that I was just being too weird and that I was a pedophile. And I was like, well, what happened? And she was like, well, I was just complimenting her too much. And I was just like, oh my god, it's like, what the fuck just happened right now? It was fucking insane. It was fucked up,
Yeah.
especially, it was that was one of the readings that I gave that was just very fucking jarring. That shit was wild.
so how often do you do readings?
I used to do them pretty often. I used to actually make pretty good money with it, but I have put a stop to readings for the moment being because my mentor wants me to stabilize myself properly, because for a very long time I was very much functioning through my mental illness with my magic and with my abilities, and things were backfiring on me very fucking badly.
Would you be able to like describe that a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, okay, excuse me. The best way I can really think to describe it is like, I created a lot of really bad shit in my life through manifestation and through involving myself in shit that I shouldn't have been involved in. Um, and avoiding a lot of things. Like, I feel like spirit, the universe, just sort of like whacked me on the head because there was a lot of things that I was running away from and trying to escape, and I would just like get into these fucked up situations and then like bring all this negativity on myself, like just this anger and like self-hating, self-depreciation, all that shit. And it like really like put me in a horrible space for a really fucking long time and put me into a lot of bad situations. I ended up in a karmic relationship that lasted about a year and a half that was like fucking awful. But it just put me in a lot of places where I could have been working on myself and growing, but instead I was very much stuck in a negative mindset of repeating trauma cycles and just not really being my best self and not allowing myself to be treated in the way that I deserve to, if that makes sense. And when you do that, like, it can bring a lot of shit to you, like entities, all kinds of shit. Like, I've had a lot of weird experiences with things like that. Like, I remember when it was getting pretty bad about 2 or 3 years ago, I was sleeping in my bed, and I like kind of woke up. It was like sleep paralysis, and like when I fucking tell you, I felt the bed start to indent because something was crawling on it, and it like was over me. I could not see it, but I could feel it, like the indentations in the bed where there was like legs and hands. It was so fucking creepy. And I've had other shit like that happen when I was younger as well. When I was living with my mother in White House, I had this one morning where I woke up and something was dragging the blanket off of me, and like once I could finally speak again, I like screamed for my mom to come in there. Just like a lot of things will come to you and are attracted to you when you have that sort of energy about yourself, especially when you are, I guess, sort of mentally powerful. Not mentally powerful. I mean, everyone is mentally powerful. Like, everyone has psychic abilities. They just might not be like, for example, my boyfriend, one of his things that he can do is he can reroute people's like resources. So like, I remember for a while, like, our old roommate, like, he would always have weed because he would just like manifest that shit into to coming to him, like, because he was not buying for like a good month, and he was like smoking all the time, and it wasn't like, it was just shit like that. I kind of lost my train of thought, sorry, so I'm gonna just cut off right there.
You're fine. So, you mentioned some stuff about like how demons would be like not demons, but maybe demons, like these entities being attracted to you, right? Or just
Mm-hmm.
people in general. Have you had any other experiences like
uh
that?
I have had many experiences like that. One that I can say is God, this one goes kind of deep, so I won't go into many details on the origin of it, but let's just say my dad is a really weird person. He wrote me a 300-page book for my 18th birthday. He's a linguist. He lives in Brazil, and we have not had a very close relationship for a long time due to many things. And he wrote me this book for my birthday or whatever. It was like all paper and drawings and like different languages and stuff and poetry, all kinds of stuff. And I opened it up while my ex best friend slash roommate and I were living at my old apartment about about a year ago now, maybe like a year and like 3 months, and we were all on acid, and I opened the book, and like we were going through it, and I saw two things in that book that I used to regularly hallucinate. And the kind of icing on top was that there was a sigil on the page that we eventually opened in the book, and a picture of a cat. And immediately after that, we both felt the fucking portal open in the home. And I'm like, oh, fuck you. Like, you really opened up an energetic portal in my fucking home, bro. Like, are you serious? Because my dad is fucking weird. Like, um, he is also into these things and very knowledgeable about them. And so, I get pissed off. I am very aggressive. And, I'm messaging him and I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? Like, why would you do that? Like, that's so weird. That is so fucking weird, especially because we're not cool like that. And, he's like playing stupid, all that shit. And, me and my friend are outside, and eventually, like, as I'm arguing with my dad, she goes inside to go get a cup of water, and I called him a fucking liar, and she's like coming back as I said that, and I started coughing so hard my face turned blue, and I lost my voice for a week. And what got even fucking creepier about that night is I was outside smoking a cigarette, and that was like later on, and I was just out there smoking, and I look up at the like roof of the apartment in front of me, and there's a cat on top of it, and it like looked really weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It just looked really fucking weird, and I like called my friend over, and I was like, "Yo, like, is that a cat?" And she was like, "Yeah." And like we're looking at it, and she's like, "That's a majestic cat." And I'm fucking so serious that shit shape shifted in front of our fucking eyes. Like, its neck grew long, and it started sprouting like pretty much like arms and hands. It looked like a Native American shapeshifter, but what I do believe it was a Jinn, which is a similar entity, kind of, not entirely, but kind of. Um, and it starts crawling off the fucking roof, and we're like, fuck no. So we like slam the door, and it wouldn't fucking close at first, and then we locked it, and that was a weird fucking night because it was just a lot happening.
Right. Do you think you get most of your sup? Can I call it supernatural abilities? Would that sum it up? Like, okay.
I would just call them psychic abilities.
Alright, psychic abilities. Do you think you got your psychic abilities maybe from your father and what he may have done? Or if he is also a psychic?
I think it has a lot to do with it. I know that my mom's side of the family also has those abilities, specifically my grandmother, and my great grandmother. My great grandmother actually used to do automatic writing, and my grandmother told me how, they would sit and they would do the automatic writing, and she would ask the spirits questions, and they would like fucking cross reference that shit, and it would be like accurate. So I do know that my great grandmother had the ability to converse with spirits, which I also can do, but I don't need paper. I generally just can hear them. But it's not like an outward thing, like where if someone was to like whisper in your ear or like speak out loud to you, it's like something you like hear in your mind, sort of. At least for me, everyone is different.
Right. So, can you kind of explain to us like the process of somebody who is deceased talking to you? Like how it goes for you?
Usually it just happens. It's actually kind of frustrating sometimes because once the dead know that you can hear them, they don't shut up. And I understand that it's because they don't really have anyone to talk to, and a lot of them need to process trauma. The dead are they do tend to push trauma onto you because they want to pass on their fucking stuck, and it can be very very overwhelming. I actually have a friend that passed, and sometimes it can be frustrating with him because he'll send me dreams and whatnot about what's going on with our other friends, and it can be very overwhelming because I don't really have the ability to do much in order to help them. Like he sent me a dream before one of his other friends died because him and his other friend were in an argument. Like there's just a lot of things. It can be really overwhelming, especially when you're highly empathic. I try to ignore for the most part, but sometimes it can also be funny. I remember I was sitting in the car and this woman is like, "My son's on death row," and I was just like, "Wow, what's your name?" And she was like, "Diana," and then she just didn't say anything else, and I was like, "All right, well, I guess that's what it is. Fuck it." It can be really weird. I actually have done like speaking to the dead for people before, just one time. It was for it was I'm not gonna divulge that information,
That's
but
fine.
it was pretty interesting because I spoke to somebody's deceased family member, and that was what really put it into perspective for me because I always was like, am I like just because I am schizophrenic, so I do always question things, and I'm like, is this really like what's happening? But when I knew the name, I knew like the age, like I knew all these different things, and I did not have any of that information. It was very like, okay, yeah, that's definitely a thing. Yeah.
Right.
So that brings me to the question then. Are you able to access whichever spirit you want, you think? And is there, do you believe in like a heaven or a hell, or do you just think it's all spirits and purgatory and, trying to reach back to us?
Okay, that is a complex question, and okay, so purgatory does exist, hell does exist, heaven does exist. There are different
Okay.
forms of each thing. It is really like the world, or rather, universe that we live in is a projection of our thoughts and what we believe in. Um, like I remember my uncle also is into metaphysics, and my uncle explained it to me like the gods are like you can create gods. So like if enough people were to this is exactly how he explained it to me, like if enough people were to believe in the church of Ronald McDonald, and like someone was dying on a fucking deathbed and they all saw Ronald McDonald come and heal them, then yeah, like in that in its own right, that is now a deity because you have given that you've created that. Purgatory does exist, and I have seen it one time. My friend had passed, my friend Juan, and that was a really fucking interesting experience. So I was like in front of my ex-boyfriend's computer just vibing or whatever, and like suddenly I was like spaced out and I was like swimming through air, and it was really weird. It was like all gray. It basically looked like a huge graveyard. There was tombstones everywhere and like all kinds of spirits and shit. And like I see my friend Juan, I'm swimming around in air, and I'm like, what the like why am I here searching for something? And I see Juan like over a tombstone crying, and I was like, what the fuck? And so like I swim down to him and like I pull him up from under his arms, and like this fucking like void sort of hole opens up, and I like pull him through it, and like a spirit came through with us. And I want to say about 2 weeks after that, there was starting to be activity in his room. Like they were hearing him, smelling him, hearing shit going on in his room. Um, those things do exist. He was atheist, which is where I think how that happened because he did not believe anything would happen. It really depends on the person. Now, some people, like, a lot of people do reincarnate. Like, most people, everyone has past lives for the most part. There are some new spirits or souls, but for the most part, most people have past lives and people do reincarnate. Um, it is usually when you reincarnate, when you come into your next life, you will have karmic ties and you will have karma and cycles and all kinds of shit that you're having to undo. So that's why you might see some people who are like in really fucked up situations and it seems like it just keeps going and happening and happening and happening. Like that's something that personally happened to me. My last past life was I got manipulated into some bad shit and I actually met that person in this lifetime and there was a lot of things surrounding that were really crazy, and it's part of the reason that I went through some of the things that I went through because I did make a contract in that past life with the intranquil spirits that I did affect in order to right those wrongs. So there are a lot of things that did happen to me in this lifetime because of things that I've done, and it's really actually now that I'm talking about this, I do see like a lot of murder cases and things like that. Like the Night Stalker is a good example. Like something like it has to be karmic in some way, not for the people that were murdered but for them. Like they're clearly playing out some sort of cycle that goes so much deeper than what they've experienced in that lifetime. Like clearly something is being played out and played out, and it's really fucking interesting. Or the Jodi Arias case is another really good example. Like I was reading an article that someone wrote, an astrologer wrote, about their dynamic, and to me it really struck me as it could have been something karmic because of the way that the interactions happened and the circumstances surrounding the situations. It's pretty it is a weird world that we live in, but I think for the most part that spirits tend to recycle. You know, when you go to heaven or hell, I don't think it's always like a permanent thing because earthly souls are here for a reason, whether it be that you are a star seed or whether it be that you're just here and that's where you are and you're about to learn this lesson for the greater good of humanity's consciousness. It is a very complex question and it very much depends on the specific person because I mean some people can even go through apotheosis. I don't have all the information on that. It is essentially achieving godhood. It's something that I would compare, like Buddha, for example, in a way achieved apotheosis. It There's a lot of different things that can happen.
So then you said that new souls can be born. Does that mean that other souls can be like lost?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Other souls can be destroyed or can be killed off.
okay.
Like, for example, if you were to have someone, like, let's say, for example, Ted Bundy was to reincarnate and he was to do the same shit, like, all over again and do it, like, over and over and over and over again. His soul would probably be destroyed because it's like, well, you're not learning your fucking lesson. It's never going to get through to you. You're going to keep doing this shit. Like, you know what I mean? So it's very much that's likely what's going to happen. Though sometimes human souls can turn into shadow people or different types of entities. I do believe, like, because I have met shadow entities that used to be human. It it really depends. It really just depends because some spirits after they die they become very angry and they become overwhelmed with those emotions and that grief or that feeling of I guess not feeling like you didn't accomplish and you have so much left to do can be a form of grief in its own way. But yeah.
You you mentioned that you realized in your past life and such who you were and how
Could
do
you
you,
just say that one more time? I'm sorry, you cut out.
oh yeah, sure. You said that you like found out who you were and what you did in like your past life, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't. If you want some details on that, I can give it. Essentially, I was manipulated into a tantric cult in my past life with one of my exes, and it was just not a good thing. I very much. I think what happened was that I did help him groom, like, 17, 18-year-olds into the cult and, partook in, like basically enabling his behavior. And it was really weird when I finally found that out. At first, it was like really jarring, and I was very upset with myself because, obviously that wasn't something I did in this lifetime, but it's still like to hear that you could have done something like that is still very jarring and fucked up. Um, that's why I have had a lot of trauma with those types of things in this lifetime. But essentially, I lived with him for a little while, and he was a very strange person and very obsessive over power, which makes sense. It's really interesting too because he grew up in Jehovah's Witness. His dad was very much still present in that house as well and did not like me. Um, Later, when I found out, I told him, because I'm like, hey, like this is what happened. You need to do what you will with that. Try to make your amends and shit. I'm gonna do me, like whatever. And he told me about how like a week prior or some shit, he was like walking down the street and like some homeless lady started like fucking screaming at him and was like, "You fucking raped me! Like I'll never forget your fucking face! Like you fucking raped me!" And was like throwing shit at him. It was, yeah, it was some shit for sure.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit more about when you first realized you were able to tap into something like that, as far as your psychic um abilities go. Like, when did you first realize that was that was going to be something for you?
Um, when I realized that it was going to be like a really imperative part of my life was probably the day that I passed out on my old mentor's porch. That was definitely a really strange experience, and it helped me start putting together a lot of pieces of a lot of things and making sense of a lot of things. Um, it it definitely it changed the course of my life for sure. I think that was probably about when I started to realize how much of a part it had played in my life and how in tune I was with it and that it was something that I was interested in. I am very much the type of person who likes to learn. I'm always actively seeking out new types of knowledge. I am the type of person that believes that, like, the search for knowledge is, endless, as would obviously, but I do believe there is always something that we should be learning and striving to do and improve on. That is I guess, just the type of person I am, yeah.
Mm.
So, I want to go back to the whole like how you found out who you were in a past life because like you talked about who you were and such, but how did you find this out?
So I got a reading from someone in my mentor's coven because I just like had always had, I don't know, I have met like a lot of people that I have karmic ties with this in this lifetime. My mom, actually, I have a karmic tie with from that specific lifetime. And it was something that was deeply affecting my life because I was not dealing with it properly. And I guess I just sort of did it on a whim. I was curious. I wanted to know, and I felt like it would be something that would be beneficial to me. And she gave me the reading. She gave me the, what's it called? She explained the imagery on the cards and like the symbolism of it, and gave me the idea of what it was. And from there, I was able to delve into it a little more and understand it a little more. Um, and get some sort of idea about it. I'm still in the process of finding out more about it. So I can't, like, because my ultimate goal with it is to not only assist the intranquil spirits that I helped create, but also to I mean, in general, even before I found this out, I am someone that wants to be very, I want to do a lot of things for people who have had really traumatic home lives or like have experienced CSA. That's something that I hold very dearly to my heart, and it is something that's unfortunately very common. And I do want to be someone that speaks on that. And I considered actually going into college for psychology, and then abnormal psychology, and then criminal psychology. And then I wanted to work with people who were, like sociopaths or like murderers and things like that, to understand more and to figure out like it's not really a phenomenon, I guess, but like just figure out like how do people get to that level where they do something like that. Like, I know that it stems from trauma and that it is a cycle that can be repeated, or that some people are just like really fucked up in the head, but it is something that genuinely interests me, about, I guess, a person's mind, like how they can get to that level and how they can do things like that.
Right. And it is a very interesting topic, so I could see why you were very interested. So, going back to the readings part, uh, so you don't have to touch people to get a reading. You can do it like over the phone or
Oh,
something.
absolutely not.
All
Yep,
right.
I actually have done most of my readings over the phone.
So how does that? I don't know if like you can go into specifics, but how does that work? I, unless I've already asked this. Then sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It's pretty much just the same concept as feeling someone's energy. Like when you have access to someone's energy, you can like know a lot about them. Um, Especially if you know how to read like little parts of someone's energy and relate them to experiences or like different emotions and stuff. That's usually how I'm able to do it personally. Um, Oh wow. It's really just sorry. It's really just something that I guess I just naturally do. I can't always really control it. It's why I tend to be an introvert actually because I got to be careful with the people I surround myself with. It can be incredibly overwhelming to deal with because I will get reads on people without intending to. And it's really really overwhelming to constantly be kind of have people's trauma like pushed onto you, especially if they have like a really powerful like energy about them that is easy to grasp onto.
Right. So do you get any? Can you get any readings off of any of us?
Yeah, I could sure try. Let's see. Let's start with you, Cade.
Alrighty.
Okay. I am getting that you probably had some sort of like anger issues as a child, possibly, maybe an aggressive parent, father, masculine figure. Um, you are a very isolated person. You are very, what's the word? I don't want to say judgmental is the right word. Not judgmental in like a negative way either. You are very opinionated as an individual, and even though you are very open-minded, you're a skeptic. That's the best way to put it. You're very skeptical
Fuck.
about any and everything. You very, very, very much like to be able to touch, feel, see, experience something for yourself, and even then, you can tend to question it. I think you probably have a hard time coping with I'm not well, let me not I don't want to out you or anything.
You
Like
can do
I'm
it.
just gonna
It's
okay,
okay.
have a
Out
hard
me.
time coping with trauma, especially because you appear to me to be the type that is very not I'm actually very similar to that, very above that in the way that you want to approach things with logic and with practicality, and emotions can be very inconveniencing when you're trying to do that because you are being pulled in many different directions when you are dealing with emotions. I think that it's something that you strongly deal with and that has affected many relationships in your life. I think that you are very, let's see, like you have like a very head heavy energy. You definitely do a lot of thinking and mulling things over and trying to understand things to the best of your ability. You are very much someone who likes to learn things. Obviously, I mean, you have a fucking podcast that very much touches on like eccentric things and people. You're just generally a very curious but closed-minded to a degree and stubborn
Yeah.
person.
Oh
I
my
don't mean
god, that's so
closed-minded.
accurate. I'm sorry.
It is.
All this is
I
so
don't mean that
accurate.
in a negative way
No,
either.
no.
No, no,
Like,
not negative at all. I'm
Like,
yeah.
just this is
You're just
insane.
laying
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking with me. I'm like, oh god, she's fucking like kind of nail on the head.
but
'Cause-
yeah, that's generally the vibe that I oh shit, the vibe that I get off of you. As just scraping the surface.
Fuck. Yeah.
Well, now I want to go next.
Okay,
This is
with
fucking
you, I
awesome.
get someone who is very sensitive, but in denial of that. you feel what's the word when you feel like lesser? You feel lesser than others when you tap into that sensitivity. You probably had it shamed, maybe by peers or parents as a child. It can be really difficult for you to like see eye to eye with others with their emotions because of this, because you want to disconnect from that. It's I'm gonna go ahead and just say straightforward, like a lot all of y'all have issues connecting with your emotions and like feeling them properly or in a healthy way. A lot of the time it's turned into other ways of coping with it, which can be, dissociating from it, turning it into a joke, turning it into like whatever it is. But with you specifically, it's something that you really do long for deep down, and you are getting there. I do get that you are, like, while you are in touch, it can be sort of a back and forth battle. You did tell me a little bit that you are someone who experiences like others' emotions, and that you are an empath. And for me, I think that that might be why it can be really difficult for you to get in touch with your own emotions, because sometimes as an empath, it can be really hard to figure out what are your emotions and what are other people's emotions. So with you specifically, you are very sensitive, but you are very closed off, and you have a wall around you, and you really feel like shameful kind of about the sensitivity that you have, when it's a gift. Being sensitive is a good thing. It can be really overwhelming, or sometimes it can manifest in really fucked up ways. But I think that, regret, um you have a lot of regret, specifically around, like, I don't were you like a bully growing up, or like did you do something like bullying wise towards someone, or like really push someone to like the edge, possibly, maybe even an ex-girlfriend. You were maybe really emotionally detached, and it fucked someone up, or you have used that sensitivity in order to manipulate others. um that's sort of what I'm getting on a surface level from you. I think that you had a really close connection with your mom, but that it was in some ways very codependent on her end, sometimes, maybe. And it brought you a lot of, like, difficulty with dealing with others' emotions. You are probably also someone, as an empath, who has people that kind of tend to dump their shit on you when you're not necessarily looking for that, which is part of the reason why you keep that wall up, aside from the other things that I already said.
I like it. I like it. Yep, that was pretty accurate.
That sounds pretty good.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
This is cool.
So then it's my turn then?
But
Sure.
sure, you are a very laid back person, sometimes to your own detriment. Um, it has caused a lot of issues in your life because you're not, I'm not even gonna say detached. You just kind of do not give a fuck, and it can create a lot of drama in your life, specifically with women. You have a hard time tapping into other people's feelings. You have a hard time processing other people's feelings. You do care about people to some degree. You do care about your friends and your loved ones, but you generally do not function on that. You give me like a really trickster type of energy. Like, you like to play pranks on people and fuck with people, which
Yeah.
I'm that's really what I'm getting off of you. You're very much a jokester, and it has been very detrimental in your life and created a lot of issues.
Right.
um you are a very good manipulator as well. You know how to get into people's minds, and you know how to work them and how to get what you want out of them. Despite being very emotionally, like, detached, you are very good at understanding the logic behind people's emotions and why they act in that way, and using that to your advantage. Um, that is something that you do a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
that sounds really, really accurate. That is crazy.
I'm shook, fellas. I am shook.
Yeah, this is kind of fucking with me, but like
I
such a
am
cool
shook.
fucking with me.
Yeah.
Okay, Ada Rooney. Wait, Aiden, are you here, bud?
Aiden has left the building,
Aiden is left. So how long
but
have you
that's
been
okay.
able to do um these specific types of readings? Like, did you have to be taught how to do
um
this?
No, no, I've just it's just something I do. That's what I meant when I
Oh.
meet people in public and it can be really fucking overwhelming because I immediately know what's going on with them and I'm like, I don't want to know that. It can be very overwhelming, especially because some people want to be seen and some people want to be heard. So it can very much come through when they come in contact with an empath, even if they're even if they're not what's the word aware that you could be an empath because they are looking for someone that is that can see and hear and feel what they are experiencing. it it's a very weird thing. It's just something that I've always kind of been able to do.
Holy
Aiden.
cow.
Well, that is extremely impressive.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
This is
fucking
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
amazing.
much.
Fucking incredible.
I
well,
appreciate it. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
But
yeah. When I recently actually oh, go ahead, sorry.
oh no, you go ahead first.
I was just gonna say I recently actually applied to work at a metaphysical shop. It did not work out because I had only lived in Florida for 8 months, and he was like, "Oh, you haven't lived here long enough. This is a place that people just go through." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, okay." But I had at least 20 of my clients were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you can use me as a reference." And these are all like repeat clients. Like, when I was doing readings for money and shit like that, I had a lot of fucking repeat clients that would always come to me because one of the things that I specifically specialize in is helping people through their trauma. I have a very intuitive knack for it. I definitely know how to work with people and how to get into their mind.
Right.
Well, before we wrap this up today, is there anything about the witchcraft or the psychic, anything about that you want to share with us tonight, or anything you want to say before we let you go?
The only thing I really have to say is that it's I forgot what I was about to say. I'm sorry. You
You're
guys have a
good.
good night.
You
No, you're
too.
good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Wait,
Yeah,
hold
yeah,
on.
no problem. It was good to be here.
Hold on. Aiden, I saw your mic flicker a little. Are you back, buddy?
Yeah, I'm bad.
D- would you would you, would both of you like would you guys want to read? Like would you want to read Aiden's energy? And would Aiden want
Oh
that?
yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay with you, Aiden?
Oh yeah, buddy.
All right. You are very depressed. Um, it is debilitating for you emotionally. You cannot connect with other people. You lack interest or in wanting to connect with others or wanting to really like function. It's the like I don't know if this is accurate, but perhaps like a death recently or like a while ago that was like very close to heart or just losing a lot of things. I think that there's definitely a pattern of loss that has happened in your life, maybe having things taken away from you just sort of in like this unfair like manner, like just having things like ripped the fuck away from you as soon as you get them or like when they're really important to you. It seems like you are very depressed. You do not have much interest in connecting with others. Like I said, you do not really. I think that you were probably very sensitive at some point and kind of had it shoved down for a really long time. I am getting a very, very bad male figure. Maybe physical abuse, maybe yelling and screaming, shaming. A lot of trauma, a lot of things have happened. It's something that definitely clouds your mind a lot and that fucks with you. And I'm not sure if this is accurate, but if it is, I really do hope that you're able to find the healing and peace that you do need. I think that you're being tested by a lot right now. You are being driven to find new ways of dealing with things, find a new path in life, and rebuild, the foundation that wasn't ever really there. You know what I mean? That foundation is very broken, and you have to rebuild it and figure out what it is that you want to do from there and go with it. I think that you're someone who can very easily manifest things into your life, including bad things and mostly bad things. I think you are very intuitive and very sensitive to things. Like you usually probably know when something is going to happen or you yeah, like if you ever get like anxiety for like a week or some shit and you're like, God, like why am I so fucking anxious, and then like a week later, like, you know, some shit happens and you're like, fuck, like I fucking knew it, or like you knew that something was gonna happen. Like you definitely strike me as someone who is like that. You have a lot of things that you are needing to unpack in this specific lifetime, and if you ever need guidance in that direction, you can always you know, hit me up or anything. I can help put you in the right direction.
Well, I'll be damned. Well, shit. I don't know if that made me more depressed or happy.
Well,
Absolutely.
That was something else.
Well,
Yeah.
Eli, you
So,
are incredibly impressive. We will tell
Yeah.
you
I
that.
do have like one other question. So like it, and like you're free to say like explain that, but like how old are the practices that you're using? Like that you're learning now? Like how old are these skills that you're learning?
Um, most skills or psychic abilities are incredibly old. I mean, people have been doing it for thousands of years. I mean, when you look at like ancient civilizations, shit like Sumeria, fucking Atlantis, Egypt, like they were very intelligent on this level and on pretty much every other level, very fucking intelligent. And these are things that people have been able to do forever. Everyone has psychic abilities, everyone does. You know, some people just have different types of abilities. Some people may not be empathic, but may be able to like create fucking chaos or like destruction. I know someone that is like that personally. Thankfully, they do not have the means necessary to do that, as they are completely on the wrong path with that. But there's a lot of different things that people can do. But the thing is, with things like empathy and like reading others, while some may be more adept at it, everyone can do it to some degree. Like it's sort of like an instinct in a way. You know, like when you walk into a building and you get a bad feeling, or like you come into a situation and you get a bad feeling and then something bad happens, like it's very much something related to that type of like intuition. And I think most people have an ability to tap into it. It's really just dependent on how it manifests into each person. Just like everyone feels energy differently. Some people feel it in their head, some people feel it in their stomach, some people feel it in their heart, some people feel it in their sacral chakra or their root chakra. It really just depends on the person and where they process those energies or those emotions. That's why you know, something I think is really important when beginning to do energy work is figuring out where it is that you process energy, because it gives you more insight into like what it is that you need to do in order to hone that skill, because then you know what's happening when you feel that.
Right. So I don't know.
That's absolutely.
That's a, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't really have any more questions.
I'm good.
Yeah, man, this has been Eli. Thank you for coming on. You're
Yes.
very impressive, and
Yes, thank you so much.
We
we may have you back on in the future. We never know.
yeah, this is
Yes,
fucking
if you
cool.
don't
Yeah, that's
mind,
fine.
But
that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I'm totally down to come back on. It was cool talking to you guys.
oh, you too. This is fucking surreal. Anyways, this has been another episode of Full Grown and Wild, months in the making. But we will talk to you next time.
See you later,
Bye.
guys.
All right, later, guys.
See ya.